Hey, this is Yazuki Wolf, and today we're going to be going into another one of our little virtual study abroad episodes, and we're going to be going to WoW Japan, and I don't really know anything about this site. I just kind of randomly came across this article, and I thought it would be worth talking about, but it's, see if we go down here, we see it says, Shitte okitai, Nihon de densha ni noru toki no mana. Let me do that one more time, just in case you didn't follow. Shitte. Shitte comes from the word shiru, which means to know. Okitai, it comes from the actual root of the word oku, which means to place, but shitte okitai means things to just know ahead of time. It's a little hard to translate into English, but hopefully you'll get the idea when we get to the end of the sentence. Nihon, which is Japan. Nihon de densha ni. So, Nihon de densha ni noru. So densha is train, of course. Noru is to ride. So when riding the train, toki no mana, and toki means time, but in this case it means when. So the time, when you are riding the train. And here in Katakana we have mana. So mana is a manner. So these are manners for when toki no you ride the train in Japan. And shitte okitai is things you should know. So things you should know for when the sort of manners you should know when you're riding the train in Japan. And I think this is an interesting topic because there definitely are a lot of unwritten rules that you have in Japan in general, and specifically when you're in the train station and riding trains, because everyone seems to know to move in a certain way and to act in a certain way in order to make sure that everything runs smoothly. If you have so many people packed into a small area, it's very easy for a few people to kind of just not follow the general manners and rules of things and just kind of clog things up. So it's not manners necessarily in terms of being polite, but you'll see that there are a lot of people that aren't particularly polite on the trains. Even though Japan is an extremely polite society, some of that politeness is dropped when it comes to trains because people are busy and cramped and they're busy and cramped into small spaces, and they have places they need to be at certain times and everything. And so it's not necessarily just manners in terms of being polite, and they will talk about being polite in this article, but I think beyond that, there's also just these sort of unwritten rules that you have to follow just to make sure that things run smoothly and that everyone can get along well. So let's go ahead and go down to what kind of examples they have here for us. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, that would take too long, but let's just get the titles of each section. Densha, and this is a kanji you're going to see a lot in this article because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the train, and literally, if you want to get the breakdown of the kanji, denki, that's electricity, and sha is just like a vehicle, so electric vehicle, densha. Densha wa shotte. Shotte is the specific. Shotte no ichi de matsu. So densha wa shotte no ichi de matsu. Matsu means to wait, and so wa is the subject of our sentence, is the subject marker. So we know that train. We're talking about the train. So when on the train or when using the train, matsu means to wait, and at the shotte is the specified place, rather, I guess. Specified place, shotte no ichi. So please wait at the specified place. Ichi, I guess, is the position, I guess, is how I would describe that. So when you come to the train, you'll see that there's a platform like this, and there's a couple different lines here. Let's see if I can remember exactly. So there's a yellow, if you look here, there's a yellow line, but then there's also a white line, and they'll announce it when you're in the train station. I believe they say to stay behind the yellow line stay within the white line, I believe it is, when the train is coming, because it's dangerous to be beyond over here. You want to be within this. You want to not go beyond this white line when the train is coming. So they'll have an announcement for that. But then when you're waiting, you can see they're all lined up by the yellow line, and you'll see it right here. It has you see the yellow line here, and that's the shotte basho. And it actually says here on the ground. It's not. I don't know if it's the same in every station, but it says but it says that this is the position for you to ride the train from. So going on to the next one. I mean, that's pretty straightforward. Most people could figure that one out. But another thing you might notice here is that there's all these bumps on this yellow line. That actually is for for visually impaired people to be able to kind of feel where the lines are. Like I was really surprised when I first came to Japan to notice how many things are kind of like made with visually impaired people in mind. It's actually like there's a lot of things that they do to make sure that people can get around and navigate these spaces even if they can't see. And I think that's pretty cool that they keep that in mind. I guess if you were to lose your eyesight, Japan might be the place to live. I don't know. But as we go on, I mean, these are still pretty much manners. So we have densha. I'm sorry, not densha. That is the same. It's the same den from densha. It's the same kanji for electric. But now we're not saying electric car. We're saying electric. This is actually would be pronounced hanashi, but put them together it becomes denwa. So that's an electric talk, which means call. It's like telephone, basically. Denwa no tsushin, tsuwa. I'm sorry, tsuwa. Denwa no tsuwa wa NG. So we got denwa no tsuwa wa NG. So tsuwa is it's just conversation basically. It's particularly through like an electric means usually. I think like but anyway. So talking on your phone is NG. NG. I don't think we use that outside of Japan. I think that's just like a Japan English thing. I don't know, but NG, it stands for not good. So NG, no good. You can't do that. So don't talk on the phone. That's considered very bad manners. I often see tourists and non-Japanese people here kind of breaking this law, and you'll see that no one will really like correct them, but they'll all be like giving them these stares, like, what are they doing? Why are they talking on the phone? Don't they know they're not supposed to talk on the phone? And if you have a general Japanese native who will be talking on the phone, they're going to usually you'll hear them answer and just say, "Sumimasen, ima densha nanode." Sorry, "Sumimasen, ima densha nanode. Mata kakinaoshimasu." Like, right now I'm on the train. I'll call you back. Like that. They'll just say that one line and they cut off the call and that's it. So when you have someone that's actually like having an ongoing conversation, like everyone's like, what the hell is this person doing? Don't they know that this is against our rules? You know, like, don't get me wrong, it's not like a crime, but it's just socially frowned upon. And part of the reason for that is that when you are living in a crowded place like Tokyo, the train can be extremely crowded. You can have people pushing up against you, and you could be pushed up against like 3, 4, 5 different people at one time, like literally. Like your body is actually touching them, and like their sweat is getting on your clothes and stuff, and like maybe like you've been pushed into a weird position where you're like hanging awkwardly, and so like tensions are kind of high. And people, they want to be able to just relax. And also a lot of people, they want to be able to just like work on their phone or look at their phone or like read a book or something, because you got to keep in mind that people are riding the train for a good 30, 40, maybe even like beyond an hour long train ride every morning to work, like 5, 6 days a week. And so they want to have that time to be as comfortable as possible within reason. And so doing things that discomfort them beyond the sort of expected stuff of just being crowded, they're not going to have a lot of patience for that. It's gonna be kind of disruptive. So that's just a very simple thing to keep in mind. And this is along the same lines here. It says o shaberi, which shaberu is to speak, to talk, and o is just an honorific. So o shaberi, and this is otomore. Otomore is like more means to leak, I guess you could say. Let me see what my my Rikai app says it is in English. Where does it say? Leakage. Okay, I guess I was right. Leakage, oversight. All right. So it's for something to leak out. Like you could imagine like a pipe with a liquid leaking out of it. That's more. But in this case, we're saying oto, and oto means noise or sound or whatever. So to have noise leaking out. Need chui. Chui is to be careful. So be careful about how would you say this in English? A noise leaking out. So like, for example, you see this girl down here with the earphones on, and I've encountered this a couple times where you'll have someone with earphones on, and maybe like the plug like got unplugged, so the actual phone is playing it through the speakers, but they still have their earphones on, thinking that it's coming through their earphones. And I mean that's understandable. It happens to people sometimes, but usually someone will just kind of like tap them and let them know, and then they would be like, oh, so makes sense. I'm sorry, and they'll like plug it back in, and so like things like that, just unnecessary noise is another thing. So we're still kind of on the manners side here. We're not getting to like things running smoothly part so much, it doesn't seem. And I didn't really read this ahead of time. Maybe I should have done a little bit more, but anyways. Next we have, says, inshoku wa enji. There's our enji again, which is just what you say to say not good. Usually this would be accompanied with someone like crossing their fingers into like an X pattern, or even their hands into like an X, because X means no good generally in Japanese. Like if you've played PlayStation 4, the Japanese PlayStation 4 games, you press the X button to cancel. I think in American ones it's opposite, but in Japan it switches it so that X means cancel, just because it's so ingrained in Japan that X means bad and circle means yes. So maru and batsu is what they call it. So inshoku is food and drink, basically, or I guess in this order it would be drink and food. But so we have inshoku wa enji, so don't eat and drink on the train. Now, there's no hard and fast rule against this. I mean, I've seen some cases where I think it's more or less forgiven, because I mean, like there's cases where, say, you're going on a train to a different prefecture or like a different city or something, and you're taking a kind of like a express train or something. I've seen people kind of get off and get a bento, which is, if you're not aware, is like a lunchbox, and they'll open that up in the train and eat. But usually that's because it's actually like it's reserved seating, and everyone's seated with enough space that they're not bumping into people or anything. If you were on a crowded train, like, does it have a picture of an actual crowded train in here? Let's see. All right, we're gonna get a picture of the crowded train. So Tokyo, what if you put like Tokyo rush hour? There you go. So if you're in this type of train situation, then it's going to be pretty obvious that you're not going to be eating on this. And you may look at this and think, oh, this is some rare case. This is like after a baseball game or something, right? It's like, no, this is pretty much every morning for me. There's my first train, it doesn't quite get this packed, but my second train, it does. And it's really bad because there's two big stations. And so I get on my station and it's packed. And then the next big station it gets to, it gets doubly packed. Like, you think the first station, you think that no one else could fit in, and then the next station down, like, people are just like ramming in, and you're getting smashed inside there, and it's like it's pretty insane sometimes. I was not exaggerating earlier when I said you have 3, 4 to maybe even 5 people that are pressed against you at one time. So obviously you're not going to be eating on that train. And even if it's not that crowded, generally if there's people standing around, it's not going to be forgivable for you to eat. But if it's sort of like a train where everyone's seated, there's no one standing, and you have space, and it's not like your daily routine, but if it's like just like you're on a trip like across the country or something, I've seen people eat on trains to some extent, and it seems to be forgivable based on context. Now, talking on the phone, that one is not. Like, even if there's no one on the train, if you're sitting there talking on the phone, that's still kind of a no-no. So that one's not as forgivable, but maybe if you were on a bullet train, like a 2-hour trip or something, maybe. But for the most part, I would avoid talking on the train. Talking on the phone, you could talk to people next to you, but keep your voice down. You don't want to be too loud. That also gets kind of mean looks from people sometimes if you're too loud when you're speaking. Next, we have okina nimotsu ni ki o tsukeru. I think I talked about this before on one of our study stations, but ki is just kind of like attentiveness or like energy or whatnot. So ki o tsukeru. So o tsukeru means you're putting on your ki, you're putting on your energy, your attentiveness. So you're being attentive. It just means to take care, right? So okina nimotsu. Oki means very big. Nimotsu is luggage. So be careful with very large luggage. You see this image down here of the people with the large luggages. Actually, I don't see how this is really a good example of it. You'll see signs here a lot, which are a little bit more on the nose about it. Let me see if I can find like the actual images that you see. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, these are the types of images you see all the time in Japan. So here we have some good examples. So you have a big image. Okay, so we just had the thing about not eating on the train, and especially something like watermelon that's going to be dripping and stuff. That's definitely something you don't want to drink on the train. So let's see here. What are the actual official ones? So this is an official thing you see sometimes. Says Ie de Yaro, please do it at home. This is like the otomore again, where you see him with his earphone on, but the volume is too high, and the guy next to him is hearing it and kind of being annoyed by that. All right, so that's a little bit bigger now. So here's the Ie de Yaro. That's this guy like sprawling out on the train. Ie de Yaro like makeup. Although I see people doing this all the time. This is still done quite often, but I guess they're trying to avoid it happening too much. Talking on the phone. This is the otomore. I don't get what this is about. So I guess don't practice your golf swing with your umbrella. All right, I guess that's a thing. Mise de Yaro. What is this? What is he doing? Oh, I guess because they're just too boisterous. They're probably like being more. They're like having like they're like being very loud and talkative and like saying like you should go to a pub or something if you want to be like that. Guy sleeping. Yeah, this isn't exactly the example I was looking for, but you'll see signs like this where you'll have like guy with a big backpack, and they're not paying attention to what's behind them, and it's causing discomfort to the people behind them. Yeah, just generally just be careful about your luggage. Make sure that you're not your luggage isn't getting in other people's way. Like this is pretty much what the train is going to look like, more or less. Where you have the people that are sitting down. You have people sitting down, and you have two rows of people standing, and then when it gets really crowded, you have another like row in the middle of people that are just like filling up the middle. And so that's the thing. If one of the people standing has a big backpack, it might be preventing people from getting into the middle of that. And you may think like, oh, well, they shouldn't be in the middle. There's not enough space. But no, you don't understand. When it gets really crowded, people have to shift into the middle, or else it's just not going to work. People are going to be getting crushed. So you just have to be attentive when you have bags that your bags aren't getting in other people's ways. So moving down, we have Yusen Seki. This is like this reserved seating. I see a lot of people ignoring this to some extent, but they in every train car there's a section that's specifically for. You can see here on the picture here we have it looks like it's like a pregnant woman. So pregnant women, people with children. It looks like that is, and this looks like handicapped. And then here's the elderly. So elderly, handicapped, people with children, and pregnant women. And in this area, you're supposed to turn your phones off. I don't know if many people actually do that. But if you're near there, because I think the idea is if you have if people might sit here that have pacemakers, so they want you to turn off electronics and whatnot. But I also find that a lot of people sit here unless it gets really crowded and they see like an old lady like standing there, then they'll get up and give it to the old lady. But I see a lot of people just sit there if there isn't any other seats. And I originally thought like, wait, you can't sit there, but then my Japanese friends would just sit there. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess you can sit there. And I guess the sort of understanding is that if someone does come on that needs it, then you have to give it up, I guess, is sort of the unwritten rule about that. Does it even say here? 誰でも使用して OK ですが、他のシートが空いてる。Oh, yeah, it says right here, yeah. So, 誰でも使用して OK ですが, so anyone can use it. 他のシート, so another seat, が空いてる場合は、避けて座るのが better. So, anyone can use, okay, so that's maybe where I was confused. Anyone can use these seats, it's saying, except you shouldn't use them if there is another place you can sit on. So you should, I guess this is the last resort for a seat. Okay, so that makes sense why some of my Japanese friends would be sitting there even though it's reserved, because I always thought like, well, it's reserved, I can't sit there. So I guess the rule is that you can sit there, anyone can sit there, but if you aren't one of those four categories, you should avoid sitting there as much as possible, as long as there's other seats available. All right, so next we have Josei Senyo. So Josei Senyo Shaoryo. And so you see the sign here, and it says Josei Senyo Sha, and underneath in English says women only. So Josei is women. So Senyo is like specific to women, and Sha. So it's Sha is the car. So this is a woman only car. And this thing, I'm kind of scared of like accidentally getting on here one day. I do my best never to. I think there was one time where I got on and I noticed that there was only women around, and so I was like, oh crap, wrong car, and I got off on the next station. It's because the thing is that you see these signs, right? But it's based on the time. Like, so it says here, konosha wa heijutsu. So on weekdays from 7:20 to 9:20. So it's in effect from 7:20 in the morning to 9:20 in the morning, apparently. So it's just during the morning rush. And so what happened in the past was, like, I used to work at a place where I worked from 11 o'clock, right? And so this was never ever being in effect when I was riding the train. And so I don't remember the details, but I think there was one day where I woke up early, and so now it actually was in effect, and I didn't realize it was in effect, and I got on the train. I was like, oh, wait a minute, why is there only women? And they're like, oh crap, it's the Josei Senyo. So then on the next station, I got off and got to the other car. And just so you know, it's not that the whole train is that. It's just like the front car, the front couple cars is reserved. So and it's just something to be aware of. And maybe look at the time frame of it, because like before, since I never had to deal with it since I went to work at 11 o'clock, it just was like new to me that one time when I woke up in the morning earlier to go somewhere, and I was like, oh wait, something's different, you know. So right, so I guess that's the end of that article. I'm a little disappointed because I was hoping they would go more into sort of the ins and outs. Like, so I guess there's a thing is like these seem to be. This is an article written for Japanese people living here, so it seems like it's more about the actual manners, about being polite. But as you probably heard from when I was speaking at the beginning, like there's a lot more to it that I think maybe since this is targeted toward Japanese readers, it just assumed that everyone would know about those really simple, the really like basic parts. But there is a lot more that I think maybe for people that aren't from Japan, it would be good to know about. So I may do another episode where I just break down the rules that I've learned riding the train in Japan. So look forward to that when I get around to doing that. But anyways, hopefully that was a fun little look into Japanese in the raw. Like, this isn't a Japanese lesson. This isn't curated. This is just straight up what Japanese as it is in the world. And we just jumped into it, so we'll do it again in the future. Till next time, yoroshiku.